Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 5 of What If Naruto Was a League Summoner. If you guys enjoy this what if, and want to see part 6 of it, comment down below, and let me know. The like goal for this video is 200 likes. So like this video, to let me know that you're interested in this series, and you want the next part. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. When Rias and Naruto walked into the clubroom, everyone had already arrived, and was waiting for them, with the addition of Grafia, this curly professional, and cool silver-haired maid from last night. Rias then went on ahead to talk to her, as Naruto walked over to talk to Ashia and the others, who had explained to the former nun about the current situation with Rias and her fiancé. Sorry Kaneko-chan, Yumi has a match today, so I can't summon her. Naruto told Kaneko, who wasn't eating sweets like she always did, whenever they had a club gathering like this. Like Hiba, she had a serious expression on her face, even more so than her normal one. It's fine, senpai. The white-haired girl shook her head and said, she doesn't have to be here for this. Kaneko told him calmly, but Naruto could detect annoyance in her tone. The girl for sure didn't like Ria's fiancé, just as much as his crimson-haired master did. Akeno seemed to share Kaneko's feelings, even though she was still wearing her usual gentle smile, since it wasn't as warm as normal. Once done, Naruto then walked over to Rias and Grafia, who had been talking quietly with each other the whole time. Rias was having an unreadable look on her face, her arms crossing under her chest. Seeing the blonde approach them, the two pure-blooded devils turned their heads to look at him, with Rias having a smile on her face, while Grafia remained as professional as always. I would like to apologize for last night, Grafia-san. Naruto said to the silver-haired maid, who looked at him, as if she was astonished. You know, for pointing a gun at you. The blonde continued while smiling sheepishly. This woman didn't look like someone that would hold grudge or unreasonable, but the two of them had already started off at the wrong foot, so he just wanted to make sure that there was no hard feeling between them. You have nothing to apologize for, Uzumaki-san. The maid shook her head, and said coolly, you warned yourself last night. All that matter now is that you make sure it's not going to happen again. Yeah, you can have my word on that one. Naruto chuckled and then offered her his hand, and please call me Naruto. Never one who liked formality, Grafia-san. Very well then, Naruto-san. Grafia nodded her head with a small smile. When that was so beautiful, Naruto's heart almost skipped a beat as she took his hand and shook it. For someone who had such a cool and professional facade, this woman's smile really took her beauty to a whole new level. I don't think I have properly introduced myself either. My name is Grafia Lucifuge, the head maid of Gremory household. She is also my brother's personal assistant. Rias followed with the introduction, making Naruto widen his eyes in surprise. No wonder why she had been able to subdue him so easily, being the personal assistant of the Devil King himself. Pleased to make your acquaintance, Naruto-san. Grafia greeted him officially for the first time, before adding when Naruto grinned at her, you can also let go of my hand now, Naruto-san. Oh, sorry about that. The blonde wasted no time to release Grafia's hand and take his hand back, laughing awkwardly while the maid just tilted her head to the side, and stared at him in response. So when is? Before he could ask about the arrival of Ria's fiancé, the teleportation magic circle on the floor lit up, causing the whole room to have a blinding yellow light. At the same time, wave after wave of fire was unleashed, heating up the room. After a moment of covering his eyes and shielding his face from the fire, he then lowered his arms down to see that everyone else in the room except for Grafia wasn't faring any better than him. The heat and light were affecting Rias as much as them, but she looked like she was trying to be strong, not wanting to show weakness in front of her guest. The burning sensation started to dissipate, and the light started to fade, and once everything had settled, the red magic circle, which had become that of yellow with a different crest in the middle, had disappeared and left a tall figure standing in its place. The figure was of a tall man in his early 20s with short blonde hair and dark blue eyes, wearing a blazer and dressed in a very proper manner. His outfit consisted of a burgundy blazer with gold embroidery on the right with matching pants and black dress shoes. Underneath his open blazer was a white dress shirt that is not fully buttoned, giving a slight view to his chest. Naruto narrowed his eyes. This must be Ria's fiancé with all that noble air around him. Even though the guy had a very relaxed and confident smile on his face, there was just something that seemed off about him, and so Naruto had decided in that instance that he didn't like him one bit. Phew, it's been such a long time since I came to the human world, he said in a distasteful manner, making Naruto's eyebrow twitch, before he turned his attention over to Rias, grinning smugly as he said to her, Rias, my dear, it's been much too long. He then walked over to her, and continued, I hope you've missed me just as much as I've missed you. He then threw one arm around her shoulder, and tried to grope her breast, but Rias immediately smashed his hand away, and pushed him back with an elbow. Back off, Razor. Rias stated firmly, but there was so much anger and annoyance in her tone Naruto couldn't help but look at his master in surprise. He had never heard her use that kind of tone before. Even while talking to Grafia last night, she had sounded more like a younger sister being scolded by her elder, but now, she was saying it like Razor was her enemy. Now, don't be like that, my dear Rias. Despite Ria's obvious attempt to push him away, Razor continued to advance forward, and tried to put his arm around her once again. Don't you know that the date is set as well? It's better that. But before he could touch Rias once again, Naruto shot his hand out and grabbed his wrist, stopping Razor from continuing to harass his master. She said back off. Naruto stated firmly, but the taller blonde just glanced over to Naruto and looked at him, as if he was mere fly, an insect that wasn't worth his attention as the smile left his face. Who the hell are you? He asked coldly before he casually swung his arm, aiming to throw the other blonde across the room with his superior strength, as he turned back to smile at Rias. However, after a second, and realizing that his arm didn't even bulge, Razor snapped his head back with his eyes widening in shock, and saw that Naruto was still holding his arm firmly in place. Rias, care to tell my servant to let go of my hand? Why? He's my servant, but he is also his own being. Why should I tell him to do something he obviously doesn't want to? Rias replied confidently, having seen the surprising display of strength of her pawn. Does he even know who I am? Is this one a reincarnated human? Razor asked. Nevertheless, I can see that you are still spoiling your servant a little bit too much for your own good. Please allow. As he said that, Razor spun around to face Naruto, using more strength than before to throw the blonde away, but once again Naruto didn't even move an inch, and also, before he could finish his statement to Rias, the golden-haired pawn had already summoned his silver revolver, Blaze, and thrusted the barrel of the weapon into Razor's mouth, effectively silencing him, and making him look at Naruto in shock, an expression that was positively shared by the rest of the Cult Research Club. Has anyone ever told you that you talk too much? Naruto asked confidently as he pulled the hammer of his revolver back, smirking a little as he pushed Blaze even harder into Razor's mouth, who didn't look scared. That's shock. Give me one good reason I should now blow your head off for disrespecting my master right now. He's the spouse of the next heir of the Gremory household, Naruto-san. However, it was Grafia who answered his question also. He is Razor Phoenix-sama, a pureblood high-class devil of the legendary Phoenix household, so please, lower your weapon. She raised a hand and put it on his arm, but unlike the tone she used last night, there was no threat in it. It was as if she was really asking him to put his gun down on his own free will, and not demanding or ordering him to do it. Naruto, however, still looked over at Rias, and only after he had received a nod from his crimson-haired master, did he take his gun back, and then made it disappear. TCH, how disrespectful, not even recognizing your superior. I will make sure to train this dog to be more obedient once we are married, Rias. Razor said distastefully to Rias as he glared at Naruto, who, with years of experiences journeying through the toxic community of League of Legends, quickly came up with a comeback that he had no intention to not use against someone that obviously had a phoenix for last name, and came out from a blazing hot teleportation magic circle. Whatever, Yakitori. Naruto said as he gave the other blonde a thumb up, making his eyebrow twitch in response. Ria's cheeks puffed out as she tried to hold back her laughter, but she couldn't stop the small giggling from escaping her lips. I suggest that you hold yourself off on addressing my cute servant in such manner, Razor. Rias finally said, but Razor just waved her off and threw himself down to one of the couches in the middle of the room. His arms stretching out in the backrest as he made himself comfortable on the cushioned seat. And whoever said that I'm going to marry you? Razor reasoned in disinterest, as if he had done so many times now that didn't even care anymore. But Rias, this is not going to do, you know. Isn't your household surprisingly pressing about these circumstances? None of your business, Razor. Rias retorted confidently, if I am the next heir to the House of Gremory, then I shall have the freedom to choose who will become my husband. My father, my brother and everyone in the clan are just hearing too much. It was also a promise that I will be free until I graduate from the University of the Human World. That's right. You will basically be free. Razor nodded. You can go to college and do whatever you want with your servants. But your Otu-sama and Surzach-sama are concerned. They fear that your family will become extinct. We have lost a large number of pure-blooded devils in the last war. Even though the war is over, our rivalry with the fallen angels and God is not yet over. It's not uncommon for the pure-blooded devil's successors to be killed in the useless battles against them, which leads to the extinction of their homes. So for a pure-blooded devil who is also a high-class devil, unity would be the obvious solution to the forces of devils. A high-purity devil. Even you know your children will be important from the future of the devil faction, right? Please close her eyes. The reincarnated devils like your servants are expanding in strength, but then that would make us, the high-class devils with a history, lose our place. There are ancient nobles who approach the reincarnated devils, because they are very powerful. Well, that may be fine. These newly produced devils are also important for our future, but can we allow pure-blooded devils to extinguish themselves? You and I were chosen to prevent the thoroughbreds from becoming extinct. My home is safe because I have my older brothers, but there are only 2 children in your home, and your brother is Lucifer. The only one who can allow your child to inherit the name Gremory and your household is only you. If you don't take a husband, the house of Gremory will be extinct in your generation. Are you trying to crush the house that has been with the devil for such a long time? Because of the past war, there are not even half the number of devils that have been referred to as 72 pillars. This marriage has the future of devils on the line. Finally, Rhea spoke up, her tone still as strong as before. I know what my duties are, Razor, so I am not going to crush my own household, and I'm willing to have a husband. Oh, what is expected from Rias? So let's go. At that, Razor made a big smile, but before he could finish, the crimson-haired heiress had already interrupted him. But I am not going to marry you, Razor. I will marry the one that I recognize. Even the devils of the old noble house have a right to choose. She stated it clearly. Hearing this, Razor suddenly becomes unpleasant. His eyes become sharper, and he even makes a noise with his tongue. You know, Rias, I am also a devil who takes the name of House of Phoenix after me. I can't let that name get tarnished. I didn't even want to get to a small old building like this in the human world. On the contrary, I don't like the human world very much. The fire and wind of this world are unclean. For a devil like me, who dominates fire and wind, I can't take it anymore. And with that, Razor unleashed his flame, making it look like a pair of wings on his back. His fire was so intense, that when he stood up there were flickering sparks all around the room. I will take you back to the underworld, even if I have to incinerate all your servants. His hostility and intent to kill filled the room. The pressure was so overwhelming that Ashia had to hide behind a Keno, who raised a hand to shield the girl from the intense heat of the flame, and to protect her if the worst happened. I'm not gonna let you, Razor. Rhea stated coldly as she unleashed her demonic power, but it was Naruto who acted first, stepping in front of her and the rest of her peerage protectively, armed with both of Samira's guns, Blaze and Thorn, while holding onto her sword, Vanquish. All of which he had conjured the moment Razor had unleashed his fire. Try it, Yakitori. Naruto smirked as he pointed the massive mechanical cleaver-like sword at Razor. Go on, I dare you. He stated in a low tone, unleashing a radiating blue aura around him that completely overwhelmed Razor's flame, causing the Phoenix to unconsciously take a step back in caution. Even Rias was shocked to see the amount of raw demonic power Naruto was unleashing. She had done some calculation with the Keno, and expected him to grow this powerful at the end of the semester, not only about 2 weeks of training with the champions of his sacred gear, based on what he had been telling her. Not only that, but his demonic power also felt very tempted and controlled, unlike the wild and disordered. So, are you gonna try it or not, Razor? I'm getting impatient here. Naruto asked again, and emphasized his point by unleashing even more power, causing the whole building to shake, and Razor to be overwhelmed completely. How about? But before either of them could make a move, the cold and chilling aura saturated both of their demonic powers entirely. Naruto turned his head and looked over at Graphia, who were having a cold look on her face with her eyes closed. Naruto-san, Razor-sama, please calm down. She spoke up calmly, and then opened her eyes to look at both of them, showing that the professionalism had all but disappeared, leaving only the chilling coldness of a powerful, no-nonsense woman. If either of you do something rash here, then even I won't be able to stand here idly. I definitely won't hold back. Naruto almost lost the grip around Vanquish's handle as Graphia said that, feeling a bead of sweat trailing down his eyebrow as he looked over at Graphia. It wouldn't be an understatement to say that he was scared shitless by Graphia's chilling gaze and overwhelming presence. When the blonde looked over to Razor, he saw that the guy was doing even worse than him. So the arrogant bastard couldn't even overlook or ignore someone like Graphia, making her even scarier, but also cooler in Naruto's eyes. Ah well. Razor chuckled awkwardly as he let his flaming wings disperse, seeing the opportunity to back down without embarrassing himself. If I am told that by someone like the unclaimable strongest queen of the underworld, then there's not helping. But before he could finish, a gunshot was heard, blowing a hole through his shoulder much to the shock of everyone in the room. What the fuck? How dare you shot me? Holding his bleeding shoulder, Razor roared in anger while glaring murderously at Naruto, who was pointing his smoking blaze revolver at him with a casual smile on his face. So beating this guy in combat was going to be a major problem with that regeneration ability. But not entirely impossible. What? Naruto asked absent-mindedly as he scratched the side of his head with the sharp tip of his gun. I merely want to see if you are immortal like a phoenix or not. It's too bad that you are. He shrugged, noticing the way the wound on his shoulder healed up completely with not even a scar left behind in just a second. Sorry about that, Graphia-san. Naruto laughed sheepishly before putting his weapons away, making Graphia look at him with half-lidded eyes. Try to hold yourself back from shooting others next time, Naruto-san. Graphia told him firmly, before looking at Razor and Rias nonetheless. Suzuki-sama and Lord Gremory knew that this situation would not be resolved that easily, so they have decided to make a final decision. Final decision? What do you mean, Graphia? Rias asked, but she knew what was about to come. In all honesty, even if it didn't, she would make it so. Oju-sama, how about you settle your feud with Razor Phoenix-sama in a rating game match? Very well. Rhea stated confidently as he looked at Razor. If I win this match, then this marriage engagement and all related discussions are over. We will no longer be betrothed to each other, and there will be no feuds between our houses. Razor stifled a laugh at that. However, if I lose, then I will stop resisting and I will marry you without further argument. Razor merely gave smirk in response. I can see that you are waiting for this as well, aren't you, Reyes? Considering that you haven't even participated in a game before, I thought you would have chosen a more suitable challenge. I'm confident that we can beat you, Razor. Reyes stated matter-of-factly. Really? I found it hard to believe as you have never ever participated in a game before. Well, I have had almost a dozen times. Razor stated confidently. Plus, strength-wise of all your servants here, your lovely queen, the priestess of thunder, is the only one who can fight on par with my. Razor paused for a second when he heard the sound of a revolver's hammer being pulled back, but chose to ignore it and continue without fierce servants. With that said, Razor waved his hand and a golden magic circle appeared on the floor, shown again with the phoenix crest appearing behind him. With another quick burst of fire and wind, a group of 14 different and diverse women appeared. Some were young, others looked older. Some were wearing clothes of a different period. Some were wearing fetish appeal outfits, but they were all beautiful, and one thing was for certain. Razor Phoenix had obviously used his pieces to create a harem of beautiful women, though Naruto could tell that each one was a very capable fighter. Well, these are my cute servants. Razor introduced confidently. Ashio looked nervous, while Naruto just looked disgusted. Yo, isn't she your sister? Naruto said, pointing his hand to the young, but very beautiful girl with long blonde hair tied into twin tails with large, drill-like curls and blue ribbons keeping them in place. She wore a long pink dress with white frills and a magenta bow in the front. You turned your sister into your servant. So? What's the problem with that? Razor asked with his eyebrow twitching, but his tone was as calm as it could be, as if he felt nothing wrong with it. She's the last piece that my peerage was missing to become an ultimate harem, a little sister type who is also at tsundere. Isn't a harem the dream of all men? Even the mentioned girl looked offended, blushing in embarrassment, but at the same time annoyance and anger. The flame-like aura radiated from her petite but well-developed form, was the clear proof that she was Razor's sister. Oh no. Naruto answered flatly, you're disgusting, mate. How dare you call me? Naruto merely shrugged in response. You are absolutely disgusting. Need me to repeat that with a better emphasis? I can do one even better. No wonder why President doesn't want to marry you. You are just one of those disgusting womanizers who has a 12-inch stick of pride up so far up their asses you can't even. But before he could finish, a long wooden staff was thrusted at his face by a young girl with blue hair and light brown eyes. The blonde, however, had seen her coming, and moved his head back, making the head of her weapon miss his face by an inch. The girl widened her eyes in surprise, before she hardened her gaze and followed up with a series of Bujutsu strikes, but Naruto merely moved his own body left and right while taking step after step back to dodge her attacks flawlessly. He then summoned a metal staff in his hands, and struck down the girl's weapon with a strike, before following up with a moderate roundhouse kick into her stomach, with one end of his staff planting firmly on the floor, sending her stumbling back while holding her stomach in pain. Still feeling confident that you are going to beat us that easily? Naruto asked as he spun the staff around in his hand, and rested it on his shoulder. Don't be so cocky. Mira is my weakest servant. The rest have more battle experience, and more talent as a lowborn like you. Razor gritted his teeth in anger at Naruto, before turning his attention back to Reyes, who stared back at him fearlessly. It had seemed that there's no chance for me to change your mind with words. Very well then, Reyes, you will have this rating game match. I will allow you 2 days to prepare yourself and your servants for it. Really? Just 2 days, Razor? You're not looking to make it even harder for you to win, aren't you, Razor? However, the arrogant blonde ignored her questions and continued with confidence. Doing it now won't be interesting. Rating game is not something that can be won with brute strength alone. Razor declared, sending the message directly at Naruto. If you cannot devise a plan against me and my servants, no matter how potentially strong your servants are, you won't be able to defeat me. The next time we meet, Reyes, it will be in the game. See you in 2 days. Razor left soon after that, his servants, not bothering to say another word to anyone else. It was only after the Phoenix group had left that Naruto allowed his staff to return to the world within his sacred gear. I will inform the 2 families, Reyes Ojusama. Graphia said to Reyes as she activated her own magic circle, one that was silver. Before walking into it, the maid turned her head around to look around the room, at each and every one of Reyes' servants. Her eyes went to Naruto, and stayed on him the longest. After a moment, she said with a small smile, I will see everyone in 2 days. Good luck. And with that, she left the ORC clubroom, leaving Reyes to discuss the upcoming match with her servants. You know, Naruto, you were pretty cool earlier, standing up to Razor to defend me, and everyone like that. Reyes told him with a small smile, sitting with Naruto on the couch in the clubroom, with a table full of books and battle formations before them. The 2 of them were the only ones that were left, as Kiba and Kaneko had already left to start their own training. Ashia had gone with Akeno, who would teach her how to use her magical abilities. While Riaz was confident that they could win against Razor and his full peerage, despite the obvious disadvantages in their numbers and battle experiences, there wasn't that much time for them to prepare, so it's best that everyone started right away. Was I? Naruto asked, smiling while scratching the back of his head as Riaz nodded her head in confirmation, making him blush a little. What Naruto didn't seem to notice was that Ria's cheeks were also dusting a light pink color as well as she looked at him. So what are these books about, President? Can they help us? He asked, deciding to change the subject. If the opponent is another high-class devil, then yes, we can learn something about them from reading these books. Riaz said with a nod as she opened a book and showed Naruto a picture of a flaming bird, a phoenix like the rest of his family. Razor has full control over Phoenix's fire, but the real problem with him is his immortality, which allows him to heal instantly from any wounds. But his immortality is not absolute, is it? Yes, Razor can only heal for as long as his demonic power allows him to. Also, because he will still feel the pain of the damages we inflict on him, he can be defeated if his spirit is crushed. So we have to overwhelm him. Naruto nodded his head in understanding. We will need a lot more than normal guns and swords to bring him down. Riaz pointed out seriously, my demonic power can annihilate anything, but Razor will still heal from it with relative ease. Since he's an older devil, if it comes down to a battle between the two of us, I wouldn't be able to last as long as he can, so either you or Keno have to be there to assist in taking him down. The raiding game only ends when the king is defeated, or make a surrender statement, and Razor won't give up that easily, even if he's the last one standing. I can see why you hate him so much, President. Naruto said. He didn't even know the guy that well, and he already hated him so much more than those who trolled him in his ranked games, because they wanted him to lose, just so that he would stay a Bronze Eye Police forever. Don't worry, President. We will win. I'm sure of it. The blonde declared confidently, making Riaz smile in return. I like your confidence, Naruto. Riaz said, just don't get too cocky and end up underestimating him. Razor has a record of 8 wins and 2 losses, and he lost the last 2 games on purpose out of kindness to the 2 families he is close to. You have to always keep in mind that our enemy this time is a high-class devil with a peerage that can very well win a title in the official tournament. So we can't just brute force our way through his servants. Naruto nodded his head. We can't, but it's not like we don't have our own advantage in this match. Riaz then continued with a knowing smile. First and foremost, I know Razor. It's obvious that he's underestimating us, so he won't bother with anyone but Akeno. His overinflated ego and pride will also make him overlook you as well, and we will make it the greatest mistake he has ever made with these plans. The blonde grinned in response as Riaz picked up a pencil from the table. That night, Naruto sat alone in his room. But in a flash of light, and a bright magic circle on the floor, standing before him was the 9-tailed Gumiho, that was known in Runeterra as a fox-like Thestaya. Now that he was able to stay awake to take a good look at Ahari, Naruto finally realized that she was as beautiful and attractive as how she was in her splash art with her red and white Korean-style dress, long wavy black hair with 2 matching color fox ears on the top of her head, and 9 flowing white tails behind her back. Let's see here, Ahari said seductively as she took a look around the room, before shifting her gaze on Naruto. Summon me in your bedroom. Do you have any specific intention in your mind, summoner? She slurred the last part, while smiling flirtatiously at Naruto, making him blush in response. She then started moving toward him with a bounce in her step, and a sway in her hips, but before she could get any closer to the blonde, she felt a light tug on her tails, which had fused into a single one, and turned her head around to see a short, furry creature-like being looking up at her, while holding the tip of her tail in his small hand. Ahem, Miss Ahari, I suggest that you hold off your urge to mate for the time being. Heimerdinger, the revered inventor, cleared his throat as he said in a humorous, but somewhat nervous tone at least, not with me around please. Ahari looked at him with a tick mark on her forehead, before she turned back to Naruto, who was smiling nervously at her, while scratching the back of his head. Why did you summon him? She asked, pointing her hand at the genius Yordle, who greeted Naruto with a wave of his hand. There's something I want to discuss with both of you. Naruto answered with a chuckle before looking at the messy-haired Yordle Professor Heimerdinger, pleased to meet. But before he could finish, Heimerdinger had leaped onto his shoulder, and grabbed his face with both hands, moving it left and right as a mechanical arm came out from his hair, and thrust its hand into Naruto's mouth, spreading it wide open and allowing Heimerdinger to look inside. Fascinating. Hey, what are you doing to Naruto, you weirdo midget? Let go of him. Asking in shock, Ahari grabbed the Yordle by the back of his shirt, and pulled him back from Naruto, throwing him down the floor of his room, before standing protectively in front of her summoner, hissing in annoyance as blue flame appeared and orbited around her body. Ahem, so sorry about that. Heimerdinger said as he coughed into his hand, and then stood with his hands behind his back. I'm merely interested in our young summoner's nature as a devil. I promise it will not happen again. You know that I'm a devil? Naruto asked as he wondered how well his champions knew him. Yumi told us. She's been bragging to everyone at the institute what a cool and awesome summoner you are. Naruto couldn't stop himself from laughing softly at that. To be honest, I completely agree with her. It's not every day that you meet a hormonal young man who can resist Evelyn's temptation. Ahari added with a smile, hands on her hips as she gave Naruto a flirty wink. Must be because I know what she is. Naruto just shrugged. Or maybe because of what you are, who you have become, young summoner. HighSchool reasoned, pointing out wisely with a finger up. However, that is also the reason your personalities are affected by her power when you draw upon it. There are similarities in your natures, as you are a devil, and she's an ancient demon. I see. Naruto then suddenly remembered, oh yeah, speaking of which, there's something I have been thinking about, and can really use Professor Heimer's opinions on the matter. Yours too, Ahari. Very well, if you need my assistance, young Naruto, all that you need to do is ask. HighSchool said as he sat down on the floor in front of Naruto. Ahari also did the same a bit to his left, teasingly giving him view of her inner thighs when she sat down, making him blush furiously when the blonde caught sight of him. Tell me what you have in mind. It was the day of the decisive battle. Hello everyone. I am Graphia Lucifuge, an employee of the House of Gremory, and today I will be the arbiter of the rating game between the House of Gremory and the House of Phoenix. Naruto heard Graphia announced with the Kuo broadcast system, which wasn't exactly so, because the battlefield of the game had been made into the area that they were all very familiar with, Kuo Academy. On behalf of Surzich's Lucifer-sama, I will keep an eye on this game. Using the opinion of Ria-sama and Razor-sama, we created this battlefield that is a replica of the school, Kuo Academy, which Ria-sama goes to in the human world. The location where both teams were transported will be your base. The base of Ria-sama will be the meeting room of the Occult Research Club, located in the old school building, while Razor-sama's base will be the student council room located in the new building. For pawns to use promotion, you will need to invade the enemy's base to do so. Being a pawn, using promotion was absolutely necessary for Naruto, as it gave him the power-up he needed to increase an area of his power, which could be the very endgame, if he knew how to use it correctly. However, likewise Razor's pawns could also promote themselves, if they got to the old school building. There were 8 of them, so there was a very likely chance of having 9 queens running around the battlefield, and it would be extremely troublesome to deal with. Everyone, you all, please put this transceiver in your ears. Akeno said as she handed Naruto and the others headset-type transceivers on the battlefield. We will be using this to communicate with each other. Now is the time for the battle to begin. Ring ring. The school bell rang, signifying the start of the match. Now, gather around everyone. Let's use the first few minutes to discuss our plan of attack. Rias announced and they all gathered around the table in the middle of the room. First, it's obvious that we need to eliminate Razor's pawns as soon as possible. It will be problematic if every one of them gets here and promotes themselves in queen. We will need to use the battlefield to the fullest. We are lucky that it has been set as our school, which we are familiar with. Yudo, if you please. Their leader stated firmly, and Kiba spread the map of the whole school on the table. It was divided into grids and there were alphabets and numbers in English, similar to that of a chessboard. With a pencil in her hand, Rias then drew a circle around the old school building and the new school building, marking the 2 bases. It is safe to assume that this whole area is our territory. In other words, the new school building would be Razor's territory. It is quite possible that there will be an ambush when you go to the school field, as it is very visible from the new school building. I have a feeling that Razor will have his servant positioned on the sports field. He will have his knight or rook positioned in one of the clubrooms located on the field. They will be accompanied by at least 3 pawns, making it a total of 4 servants. So we will need to take full control of the gym near the old base. Naruto asked. It was just like a lead game. A jungler would secure a firm vision grip on his jungle first, before he could invade enemies' jungles and steal away their camps. If we capture the gym, then we will have a safe route to the new school building. From a lead tactical standpoint, the gym would be the river. Rias nodded her head with a smile. That's a good idea. She then looked back at the map on the table before her, drawing a black circle around the gym. We will make it our priority to capture the gym. If we set up traps around this location, then we can gain combat advantages. Naruto. The blonde nodded his head when Rias addressed him, and put his hand on the floor of the clubroom to perform a summoning. A magic circle appeared with him in the middle, and in a flash a yordle appeared before him, giving him a salute with one hand in front of his forehead, and the other holding on his trademark blowgun. Captain Timo, reporting for duty, sir. The Swift Scout said dutifully as he looked up at Naruto, who smirked and kneeled down on one knee before him. Razor and his servants wouldn't know what was going to hit them. In the fake student council office, sat Razor Phoenix and his queen Yubaluna on a comfy couch in the middle of the room, making out passionately with each other without a care in the world. Razor also had his hands on Yubaluna's breast, groping them intensely, as the purple-haired woman was left moaning and breathing hard the whole time. You're supposed to get married soon, but, as usual, you are so calm and composed, Wani-sama. Ravel Phoenix said with a small sigh as she walked into the room with Isabella, a rook of her brother, a woman with short, light brown hair and gray eyes, with a plain white mask that covered the right side of her face. Her outfit consisted of a black jacket and matching jeans. The jacket revealed her rather large breasts and cleavage, and it was cut off at her midriff. She also wore black fighting gloves and boots. The girls are in position, Razor-sama. The rook dutifully informed her master, who then nodded his head with a small smirk on his face. And so our victory is decided. The third son of the Phoenix household stated confidently. However, Ravel wasn't convinced, so she decided to tell him. Winnie-sama, I heard that a servant of Ria's Gremory-sama has a sacred gear with many unknown factors to it. There's a chance that some of the girls will be overwhelmed by him. Unlike her laid-back brother, who had been spending his time fooling around at parties and nightclubs with his servants and women that weren't even part of his peerage, Ravel had done some research on her future sister-in-law and her peerage, and realized that the pawn Naruto Uzumaki could be the second most, if not the most dangerous member of the enemy team. He had taken up 8 pawn pieces from Ria's, to be resurrected into a devil, and he was also said to have a sacred gear unique to him, something that no one had ever heard about. While she didn't doubt her brother's victory, an unknown factor like Naruto Uzumaki could be the deciding factor of the outcome of something like a rating game. I suggest that we take measures against him first and foremost, send out the most. But before Ravel could finish giving her advice to her brother, Razor raised his hand to wave his sister off and interrupted her, still with the same confident smirk on his face. There is no need for that, he stated, his tone clearly stating that he would not say it again, making Ravel cluck her tongue in annoyance. Very well, don't say that I didn't warn you. Ravel shook her head and turned away from him. You have nothing to worry about, Ravel. Razor stated arrogantly before continuing. Ria's and her servants, there is no chance in hell for them if we... But before he could finish, he was interrupted by a sound of explosion. Razor Phoenix-sama's one pawn retired. What? Razor immediately shot up abruptly from his seat with a look of shock on his face as he ran over to the window of the student council office, and looked outside to see a cloud of purple smoke at the forest around the old school building. Ravel, who also had a look of surprise on her face, quickly activated a communication spell to call the girls who had been assigned to take that area. Marion, Bird, Sharia, what is going on? She asked hurriedly as she looked at the smoke with her brother and his 2 servants in the office. Are you two alright? Here. Ravel-sama. There's something here. Watch out, Bird. It's one of those mushroom bombs. Mushroom bombs? What do you mean mushroom? Ravel was cut off by another explosion, and then she heard the panic cry of Marion, followed by a series of painful coughing, and then what sounded like the sound of blood vomiting as Sharia screamed for help. It was a second later that Grafia announced the next elimination. Razor Phoenix-sama's one pawn retired. Ravel paled at that. What's going on? She couldn't help but ask before looking at her brother, who was gritting his teeth and clenching his hands in anger. Sharia, get out of there now. De-icing to take matter into her own hand before their team could suffer another elimination, Ravel hurriedly gave the order. Yes, Ravel-sama. Sharia. What's wrong? Sharia, Ravel asked worriedly when the pawn didn't finish her answer, and left a dead silence on the other side of the communication line. No, when she thought more carefully about it, it sounded more like Sharia's voice was muffled. Something must have gotten her from behind, and covered her mouth. We are coming for all of you. Ravel then heard an unfamiliar voice, and even though the bubbliness gave her the reminiscence reminded her of a small and cute little creature, the voice still sent a chill down her spine, making her shiver in fear of nervousness. She then heard a blowing sound, and only a second later Grafia announced the third elimination of the rating game. Winnie-sama, we need to act now. Ravel told her brother loudly, making him look at her before nodding his head to Yubaluna. The purple-haired queen wasted no time to flare out of her wings and took off, flying to the battlefield as Isabella remained to protect Ravel on the request of the lady of the Phoenix household. Listen up, everyone. Realizing that her brother would give no further instruction to his servants out of anger and frustration of having 3 members of his peerage removed from the battle even before a real fight started, Ravel decided to take over. Connecting to every remaining members of the peerage with another communication spell, Marion, Sharia and Bird has already been eliminated. The enemy team is using poison traps, possibly in the forms of invisible mushroom-shaped bombs. Use your wings and scout your assigned areas with magic from above, and only land when you are 100% sure that all the traps has been disarmed. Yes, Ravel-sama. The remaining members of the peerage said simultaneously and did what they were told, as Ravel could only look on worriedly. Just what's going on? Razor Phoenix-sama's one pawn retired. Oh my, it looks like the little captain can easily win this battle for us by himself. Akeno giggled softly into her hand at Grafia's announcement of the game's third elimination, another pawn of Razor Phoenix. Naruto, on the other hand, was sitting on the couch in the middle of the clubroom and crackling like crazy. Aha. Feel the pain of millions of league players. He laughed evilly with a menacing aura around him, making Riaz and Kiba smile, while Akeno just giggled amusedly at the blonde, liking this daring side of him more and more. Now that is 3 pawns out of the way, let's focus on eliminating the rest. Rhea said as she looked the map on the table in front of her, pointing out while tapping the end of the pencil in her hand on her bottom lip thoughtfully. Since Teemo's booms are stealth traps, and scanning magic is a common thing, it won't take it long for Razor and his peerage to devise a plan to counter them. You're correct, ma'am. Everyone turned their heads and saw Teemo climbing into the room through the window, giving Riaz and his summoner a salute as he dutifully reported the operation is a success, but they are disarming my traps as we speak. I see. Riaz nodded her head in understanding as Teemo jumped onto the table and took the pen from Riaz. What are the enemy's positions, Captain? There are 4 in the gym building at the moment, ma'am. They are a pair of twins with green hair, a woman wearing a blue dress, and a girl with blue hair wielding a staff. Teemo said as he drew a circle over the gym. Riaz nodded her head in understanding. Naruto's speculation had proven correct. Razor had indeed sent out one of his rook and 3 pawns to capture the gym, the safest route from the new to the old school building through the forest that surrounded them. I planned the most traps here, so they wouldn't be able to leave on foot, so I suggest that we bomb the place with something like Corky's Hextech Munitions or Zig's Mega Inferno Bomb, before they can make any move themselves. Unfortunately, both of them are currently unavailable. Naruto informed while looking at the hologram screen projecting from a watch-like device he wore around his left wrist that were displaying the pictures of his champions similar to the band pick screen of League's client. It was one of the devices Heimerdinger had created for him to keep track of which champions were available for summoning, and which ones weren't based on their daily schedules. Normally, he could just form a telepathic link with his champion and ask them if he could summon them, but the device made it a lot easier and allowed him to not take the risk of accidentally drawing on their powers and ending up with an incident like how it had been with Evelyn. Currently, there were about 72 champions that he could summon, and that should be more than enough. The unavailable ones, who had their photos darkened similar to a banned champion in a ranked game, however, were champions that were either participating in a match on the fields of justice like the Summoner's Rift, having something important to do, or simply the ones Heimerdinger and the Institute of War had no further information on. Since most of those champions were residents of the Shadow Isles and the Void, even if he could, Naruto would never bother summoning them, since most of them were the very definitions of evil, those that Yumi had warned him about. I am sure that we can take care of them, Captain. Riaz told the Yordle. He nodded his head in understanding, before showing everyone where he had armed his traps on the maps, before moving on with the rest of Razor's peerage and their current whereabouts, showing them the areas where he had forced them into with his traps. Only Razor and his sister were the ones he had no information on, but it was not that hard to guess that the enemy king himself was currently staying at the headquarters of his territory. That's everything, Teemo said as he handed Riaz back her pencil, and she thanked him. I have done all that I can as a scout. The rest is up to you. Good luck. Teemo gave them one last salute before leaving, returning to Runeterra inside Naruto's sacred gear. Alright, it is our turn now. Riaz announced as she stood up, looking at the former nun Ashia. You will stay here with me. Because you are the healer of our group, and we cannot risk weakening Naruto further by having him summon more healer champions, you must absolutely not be taken out. Yes, President-san. Ashia also responded energetically, despite feeling extremely nervous. Yumi, you stay here with them. Naruto turned to Yumi, who he had summoned after Teemo. The two of them had decided that Ashia would need some backline protections, because Riaz would not be able to fight and protect her at the same time if their territory was invaded by the enemies. The blonde was confident in Yumi's abilities to protect and blast away anyone who tried to get close to the two of them. Protect President and Ashia at all cost. Got it. You have my word, Naruto, and Books too. The magical cat said confidently as she and Book floated over to Ashia and attached to her. You and me, we got this. Yes. Ashia nodded, smiling brightly at Yumi. The rest of you, follow the plans as we have discussed. Riaz then continued strongly as she looked at her servant, a proud smile on her face as she held out her hand, and declared loudly, it's time for us to make our moves. Our enemy is Razor, who is said to be a genius from the immortal House of Phoenix with a promised career. Now then, let's show them even immortality can't be crushed. Before the black-haired queen could leave, Naruto walked up to her and spoke to her in private for a minute. Please be careful, Naruto. Riaz said to the blonde as he prepared to leave, getting his gears ready as her eyes shimmered with a mixture of worry, concern and faith. Good luck. Shaking off the feeling of unease, Riaz smiled at the blonde. She knew that he would do well on the battlefield. If there was something she had learned about the blonde since the day he became her servant, was that he never gave up and would tirelessly fight for something that he believed in. Thank you, President. He flashed Riaz a grin, before leaving the clubroom with Akeno and the others, but he could still hear Ashia and Yumi cheering for him from behind, bringing another smile to his face as he left the old school building. Once they had left the place, they split up into 3 groups, with Naruto and Kaneko going toward the gym together. Kiba would head to the soccer field, a white area, that Riaz had deduced to be occupied by one of the 2 Knights of Razor. Akeno, on the other hand, would assist anywhere that needed her help, while making sure that no enemy would sneak past the perimeter they had set up around the old school building. With Naruto fighting on the front line, ensuring Ria's safety was her top priority. Moving carefully to avoid Teemo's traps, Naruto and Kaneko entered the gym through the back door of the gym building. Acknowledging that the enemies were now on high alert after the eliminations at the hand of Teemo, both Naruto and Kaneko went in as boldly as possible. "We know you are there, servants of Gremory." Naruto had run through a background check on Razor's peerage with Rias, so he knew that the ones waiting for him were Shulin, Isle, and El and Mira, with the buxom young woman wearing the blue Chinese dress was a rook, while the rest were pawns. "Very brave of you to show up here with just 2 people," Shulin said with a confident smile as she looked at their opponents. Ravel had told her to be extra careful with Naruto Uzumaki, as she had the feeling that he was the one who orchestrated the eliminations of the first 3 members of their peerage, so it was decided that she would be the one to deal with him. "Surrender now when you still have a chance." With that said, the rook took a kung fu fighting stance. Beside her, Mira did the same, but with her staff, looking firmly at Naruto who had defeated her just a few days ago. Isle and El pulled a pair of chainsaws from their bags and activated them, emitting a loud vroom before the 2 girls started waving the identical devices around dangerously. "Kaneko, I will take care of the 2 kung fu masters. You handle the twins," Naruto said as he summoned Set's battle bracers. Kaneko nodded her head as she readjusted her gloves. "Be careful, Bronze Senpai. Power-wise, that rook is on par with the queen." "Boy, I'm silver now." "Still doesn't change the fact that you are stuck in bronze for 11 years, Senpai." The white-haired girl blankly answered, though she had an amused smile on her face. Outside the battlefield, at the Rilkuo Academy, Sona Citru was sitting with the vice president of the Occult Research Club Tsubaki and their secretary, Momo Hanakai, watching the raiding game battle with the TV on the wall. Like those who had been watching the battle from the start, they were as shocked and as confused as Razor's peerage for the early eliminations of his 3 pawns. But like Ravel, Sona had a feeling that it was Naruto who was behind the events, as his power was the only mystery left in Ria's peerage. How did he do that? Sona had no idea, but she had a feeling that he would show them very soon. "Come on, Naruto-kun," Momo said as she openly rooted for the blonde. "You can do this." "So his power is to conjure weapons?" Tsubaki deducted, looking at the metal, red and gold combat bracers that appeared on his arms. "I don't think it is quite that simple," Sona stated in a calm tone. His demonic power alone was ridiculous for a recently reincarnated devil, so she knew that his power wasn't going to be that simple. Back to the replicated gym, Lanel went in to attack Naruto, deeming him the greatest threat to their master's victory. But Kaneko had fully anticipated them, and grabbed their wrists to throw them to the side before charging after them, leaving Naruto to stand facing Shulin and Mir. "I'm gonna defeat you right here, pawn of Ria's Gremory. Prepare yourself," Mira said and then ignited her staff, lighting the whole thing on fire, before charging at Naruto, who took a kung fu stance similar to the one Shulin was. However, the moment Mira leaped into the air and swung her staff down at his head, the blonde dropped the stance and casually swung his fist, snapping the blue-haired girl's weapon in half, with the tremendous strength behind his punch, before following up with a left hook into her stomach, sending her flying across the room and crashing into the wall of the building, leaving a giant crater with her in the middle. Razor Phoenix Sama's 1 pawn retired. Grafia announced the elimination of Mira even before the unconscious girl could even land on the ground, disappearing from the battlefield in a flash. Shulin, who was left speechless, looked at Naruto with her eyes as white at dinner plates. Mira had been eliminated with just 1 punch from him, meaning that the force behind it had to be at least on par with, or even greater than the offensive power of a rook. Moreover, she could see that the stance Naruto had taken earlier was a kung fu stance, but the way he had thrown his punches was nothing of the sort. "What kind of technique is that?" she couldn't help but ask. "Technique is for the lightweights," Naruto declared as he punched the palm of his hand. "So, are you gonna just stand there and pose?" he taunted, moving his arm forward and making a come-over gesture with his hand. Shulin grew frustrated at his attitude and finally rushed forward to attack him with a series of kicks, her feet engulfing in fire to empower her attacks. But Naruto did not falter, dodging left and right and using his metal bracers to block her kicks, sending sparks flying between them. The blonde then threw his punch back, but Shulin swiftly dodged by leaping into the air, putting her hands on the back of his hand, and then twisting her body around to kick him in the head with her legs outstretched. Having fully anticipated this, the blonde right his other hand up to dodge, before forcing her back with a throw. "My turn," he said, and even before Shulin's feet could touch the floor of the gym, Naruto had stood right in front of her, using the speed of the Wuju style taught to him by Master Yi, and threw his fist into Shulin's stomach. The girl used both of her hands to block it, but even with the strength of a rook she was still pushed back across the gym. The metal bracer on his left hand shone, and was then replaced by Ezreal's gauntlet of Nezuko as Naruto chased after her, and turned his body around to perform a roundhouse kick once he was close enough, but Shulin quickly recovered and looked at him to see an opening for her to strike him down. "You wide open." Shulin shouted and shot her leg up to kick him in the back, but using the ability Arcane Shift of the Gauntlet, Naruto disappeared in a spark of yellow, and teleported himself behind Shulin just as he finished his roundhouse kick, launching her across the room, before activating the gauntlet, generating in blue energy bow, that he then used to fire a barrage of golden energy at Shulin as she crashed into the wall, which then exploded and collapsed upon her. Razor Phoenix Samus 1 Rook retired. Grafia announced as Shulin was flashed away before the rocks and debris could bury her completely alive, leaving the spectators of the match gaping in shock at the display of strength and skills. However, what shocked them the most was the abilities that he had used and the weapons he had summoned. "Nice insect, Sito-senpai." Kaneko commented as she punched Nell on the back of her head, eliminating her from the game along with her twin sister. She had to give it to him for his creativity, using Ezreal's ability Arcane Shift as a mean to flash behind the enemy and kick them away with Lee Sin's Dragon's Rage to perform the champion's signature technique, popularized by pro player Choi In-sek in Seok after this memorable execution of it on the world stage, giving it the name In-sek. "Heh, I might not be able to do it in game yet, but you can rest assured that I'm not gonna fail it in real life," Naruto stated proudly as he pointed at himself, smiling with one hand on his hip. "With this, the gym is ours," he then declared and used the transmitter receiver he was wearing to report their success to Ria's president. "We captured the gym." "Yes, I can tell after hearing Grafia's announcements." "Good work Naruto, Kaneko," the crimson-haired heiress praised. Razor Phoenix Samus 2 pawns retired. "That must be Kiba." With this, all the pawns have been eliminated. "The first phase of our plan is complete. Now get out of there and regroup with Yudo. You three will match on to the school ground next. Ashia and I will also start making our moves soon." "Understood." Naruto and Kaneko responded to their king firmly and then left the gym. The moment they made it out of the gym, however, Naruto suddenly felt a dangerous presence above them, and summoned Leona's Shield of Daybreak just in time to shield himself and Kaneko. But he pushed under him as Naruto raised the shield protectively above them, from a massive fireball that was launched at them from above. The fireball exploded, generating a wave of intense heat and fire that wrapped around them, but with the Shield of Daybreak, the damage was reduced significantly, leaving both Naruto and Kaneko unharmed. "Sacrificing, a ruthless, but effective method," Sona said stoically as she watched Naruto and Kaneko emerging unscratched, allowing Momo to breath out a sigh of relief with a hand on her chest. Hovering above them, Razor's Queen Yubaluna had a look of displeasure on her face when she finally realized that her spell wasn't enough to take the two down. "Yes, Ryusama's peerage already has a small number. Losing any member will put them in an even bigger disadvantage." Tsubaki nodded her head in agreement. Not to mention that by sacrificing his own pieces, now all the remaining members of Razor's peerage know the strengths and weaknesses of Rhea's peerage. Sona stated calmly. However, as he peeked from behind his shield, to see Yubaluna gathering her demonic power for another stronger spell, Naruto summoned Jin's pistol in his hand, and nodded his head meaningfully at Kaneko, who did not need to hear her to know what he wanted her to do. Before Yubaluna could make the magic circle appear, Naruto had moved his shield to the side, and aimed his gun at her, firing the first shot that forced her to fly to the side to dodge. With the purple-haired queen being distracted, Kaneko ran out from behind Naruto, creating a considerable distance between the two of them, before running back at him, just as Naruto turned to her, while holding the shield in both hands. As he pushed the shield up with all his might, the white-haired first year then jumped onto the shield, using it at the pedestal to launch herself at Yubaluna, who was forced to dodge once again. As she turned her magic at Kaneko, who was vulnerable in the air, Yubaluna suddenly heard another sound of something flying through the air, and turned her head, to see the entire golden shield of daybreak being thrown at her, smashing into her body, and knocking her down. "Captain America much. Nice work senpai." Kaneko praised as she landed on the ground, but the two did not celebrate, and stayed on guard, when they did not hear Grafia's announcement for the enemy queen's elimination. True enough, the purple-haired queen emerged from the cloud of smoke, where she had landed a moment later. There were blood and bruises on her face, and the side of her body, where the shield had crashed into her, but overall she just looked pissed. "You two rats will pay for it." She snarled and summoned several magic circles that would fire a barrage of fireballs at them, but a bolt of lightning from the sky cut her off. Looking up from under a barrier, Yubaluna saw Arya's queen, the priestess of thunder, flying hovering above her. She was dressed in the traditional Japanese shrine maiden outfit, and had a small seductive smile on her face as she looked down at Yubaluna, her finger crackling with electricity. "Naruto-kun, Kaneko-chan, why don't you go on ahead, and leave her to me?" Akeno said as she summoned a massive circle of lightning magic, something that Yubaluna answered with one of her own, but obviously was fire magic, can't let you two have all the fun. "Roger that." Kaneko looked like she wanted to argue, but Naruto had already spoken up with a bright smile on his face. "Let's go Kaneko-chan, we can trust Akeno-san with this fight. She will win." He then shot the sadistic Natashiko a wink, making her beam at him in response. Kaneko saw this and decided to not question them, so they wouldn't accidentally expose whatever agreement they had made with each other before leaving the clubroom. After that, Naruto and Kaneko left the area and headed to the school ground, where Kiba would be waiting for me. Ibeluna tried to stop them, but Akeno stopped her with another blast of lightning before violent roars of lightning and fire explosions echoed throughout the entire academy as the two queens engaged each other in a fierce battle of magic. When they were near the school ground, the two could hear the sound of sword clashing, and looked to see Kiba fighting two swordswomen, a young woman with brown hair, green eyes and dressed in an armor that was equipped with a sword and a dagger whose name was Carloman, and another with long black hair with a dark blue tint and brown eyes, wielding a massive swayhander, Cirrus. Both swordswomen were knights of Razor Phoenix, so it was understandable that Kiba had to take defensive ground against them, while being continuously pushed back. Naruto watched as Kiba simultaneously blocked and countered the two swordswomen at the same time, before he wasted no time to go in with his own sword, Yane's one and single Azukana blade, unleashing a wave of demonic power that forced both opponents back. The blonde had realized the reason he could use Yane's demon blade so easily without the need to be taught by the champion himself was because the nature of the blade was very similar to what he had become, allowing him to wield and understand it like the back of his hand. "Mind if I join?" the blonde asked, smirking as he took a stance with his demonic blade radiating red lightning and a wave of demonic power, making both swordswomen look worriedly at the blonde. "Naruto-kun," Kiba exclaimed with a smile of relief as Kaneko ran to their side. "Kaneko-chan, glad to see you both." "Ryudo-senpai." Kaneko nodded her head in acknowledgement. "Now you two are outnumbered, surrender before we..." But before he could finish, the blonde noticed a group of three making their ways toward them, and realized that it was the remaining three members of Razor's peer jaw. "Well, guess I spoke too soon. Whatever you do not let Naruto Uzumaki cross this ground," Ravel Phoenix said strongly as she flew down behind the two swordswomen, joined by Isabella and Mihi the other bishop, and held her hand out. "We cannot allow him to promote to queen. There are still too many factors we don't know about his power, prioritizing taking him out first." "Yes, Ravel-sama," all four pieces said simultaneously. "So she's the brain behind this operation, huh?" Naruto asked as he looked at Ravel. "Then, if we take her out, then Razor will be vulnerable. It's 3 against 5, not too bad for us, considering one of the opponents is a bird." Kaneko muttered as she tightened her gloves around her hands. "Wrong, Ravel-sama will just be observing." Isabella said as she took a step forward and pointed at herself. "I will be your opponent, Kaneko told you. How about we even this fight out even more?" Naruto suggested, smirking before lowering himself down to put his hand on the ground. "You know the line, Ahari. Don't you trust me?" Ahari giggled softly before Naruto summoned her to the real world, much to the shock of Razor's peerage and everyone who was spectating the raiding gate match, as 9-tailed fox demons were considered to be the most powerful yokai in the world. In a flash, the fox Histaya appeared, flashing her summoner a seductive smile as she twirled around with the orb of deception floating above her hand, her 9 white tails moving flowing behind her, as her ears twitched on the top of her head. "Hold on." Momo Hanakai exclaimed suddenly in shock as the camera focused on Ahari. "That's Ahari, the 9-tailed fox champion from the game Naruto-kun is addicted to." "What?" Sona asked, confused. Momo then hurriedly took out her laptop from her bag and turned it on to open the League client, as Sona and Tsubaki moved to stand behind her. "It's called League of Legends. Naruto-kun has been skipping school to play this game." "Momo, why do you have that game in your personal laptop?" Tsubaki asked, raising an eyebrow as they waited for the game to boot up. "I thought you're not interested in video games." "Ah, I have been doing some research, that's all." Momo stammered the excuse, her cheeks dusting pink. "Anyway, here's Ahari." She then clicked on her champion's collection and showed the Citri heiress and her queen the splashed art of Ahari, the 9-tailed fox, holding her orbs with her tails flowing around her. It was the exact same woman Naruto had summoned to the battlefield. Then she suddenly remembered. "Momo, does this game have a character that is a cat riding on a flying book?" she asked, recalling the cat she had seen floating around in the ORC's clubroom a few days earlier, when she came to talk to Rias about Hyoto Issei. "Yes, I think this is her, Yumi the magical cat." As Momo scrolled down to show the feline champion to the two, Sona caught sight of a demonic-looking champion holding the same red blade Naruto was. Razor Phoenix-sama's first 2 pawns were all eliminated by poison traps. Could it be that? Momo gave a thoughtful expression before she searched for it on Google. True enough, the results showed a champion called Timo, the Swift Scout, whose ultimate was the ability to set up and arm stealth traps in the forms of poisonous mushroom-shaped bombs. Incredible. Sona uttered in amazement as she read the description of the Swift Scout before Momo moved back to Ahari, the fox Histaya, who was standing with her summoner, while bouncing the orb of deception around like a basketball with her tails. It wasn't long before the 4-on-4 fight started, with Naruto taking on Cirrus, Kiba clashing swords with Carloman, while Kaneko engaged Isabella in a fierce hand-to-hand, blow-to-blow exchange of close-range combat, and Ahari met Mihi's wave of magic head-on with the graces and movements of a skilled acrobat, a playful smile on her face as she casually exchanged words with her summoner, who fought Cirrus's sway-hander powerful blows with swift strikes of his Asakana blade. Akeno cursed quietly under her breath, even though she wasn't the type who was inclined to swearing, as she met Yubaluna's barrage of explosive balls with high-tier lightning magic attacks, creating explosions around them that sent the trees scattering, and the ground to be blown up. The battle between them had gone on for way longer than she had expected, and the Yamato Nadeshiko was more than ready to end it. There was no doubt in her mind about who was the better fighter between her and Razor's Queen. The woman had put up a good fight, but the superior skills Akeno had displayed proved that she was the stronger queen. This battle would have ended the moment Yubaluna kneel on the ground in a crater caused by Akeno's strike of lightning, her demonic powers exhausted from their magic battle. She would have been defeated too, had she not pulled out her trump card, a vial of Phoenix Tears, one of the two items Razor and his peerage had brought into this battle, gotten exclusively from the devil household of immortal birds. Phoenix Tears was a special healing potion of liquid, that even a drop could instantly heal injuries and restore health. But Akeno wasn't surprised. Thanks to a certain League of Legends gamer who watched Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets one too many times while waiting for his games. Naruto had asked Rias if there was a special rule that allowed their opponents to bring Phoenix Tear into the game, and suggested a possible countermeasure against it. Before Yubaluna could drink the healing potion, a bullet shot through the air and shattered the vial holding it, causing the Phoenix Tears to fall on the ground. Yubaluna could only watch in shock, before she was forced to jump back, when a bolt of lightning shot down in front of her, destroying that part of the ground much to her shock and horror. "Thank you, Shirv." Akeno smiled as she turned around, and talked to the person who had held her the transmitter receiver in her ear. "Happy to help, Miss Akeno." On the top of the old school building, stood the Sheriff of Peltover, a slender, well-endowed woman with long, dark blue hair that went down to the lower point of her back and light tea lies. For clothing, she was dressed in a form-fitting blue dress, a separated collar covering the lower point of her neck, giving view to her ample cleavage, brow boots and a series of straps around her thighs and arms. Her signature, however, was the large hat that matched the color of her dress on the top of her head, and the hexac rifle that she was currently aiming at Yubaluna. "Are you sure you don't want me to shoot her? Ensuring your victory is the summoner's direct order," Caitlin asked, putting a finger to her earpiece. "Oh no, you have done more than enough, Sheriff. You don't miss, so shooting her now will make it end too quickly for my taste." Akeno shook her head and said, before turning back to look at Yubaluna with a sadistic smile, her cheeks dusting pink and making the purple-haired bomb queen pale significantly, "Please, allow me to have some fun too." "Very well then," Caitlin said and rested her rifle on her shoulder as she watched on with a hand on her hip. It didn't take long for Yubaluna's cries of pain were heard all over the academy, as Akeno brought down bolt after bolt of lightning upon her. Razor Phoenix Sama's queen retired. "No?" Ravel uttered with shock and horror. All the hopes of winning this battle, which had started to fade when Naruto Uzumaki summoned Nine-tailed Kyuubi, Gumiho, had completely disappeared when Grafia announced the elimination of their strongest member, Yubaluna. In front of her, Carloman was being pushed back by Udo Kiba, who used his sacred gear to create a sword that absorbed the flame of her blade, which was shattered to pieces, leaving her on a defensive ground with only a dagger left. Kaneko was beating down Isabella. His flaming fists and fighting styles proved to be ineffective against the smaller, but stronger and more durable Rook. However, the real problem was Naruto Uzumaki and his summon, Ahari. Cirrus was a very strong swordswoman, with the speed of a knight and a lack of power, made up by her ability to wield his swayhander, but Naruto seemed to have no problem blocking her attacks. And then he sent her back with a style she had never seen before. Wuju style as he called it, striking Cirrus twice every 2 times with a greenish aura surrounding his dark red blade, while moving at speed that surpassed even that of 3 knights on the battlefield. His summon, Ahari, was holding her own like she was playing with Mihi, a bishop with enhanced magical ability. Mihi was no Yubaluna, but her talent allowed her to send multiple different offensive spells at Ahari, who jumped, leaped and bounced around to dodge like a fox casually playing around before she summoned orbs of bluish foxfire, launching them at Mihi. She was forced to raise a spell to block them, but the shield shattered instantly upon impact as the orbs of foxfire exploded, knocking her back, which caused her to land on Atimo's mushroom bomb. "No?" Ravel immediately rushed to her side, and used the second vial of Phoenix Tear to revive her, accidentally getting caught in the purple cloud of smoke. Her regeneration ability immediately kicked in, but Ravel could still feel her lungs burning up by the explosion, and her eyes became blurry as she poured the tears into Mihi's mouth between coughs, while pulling her out of the poison smoke. They could not risk losing another, if they still wanted to win. Naruto had seen this, and he had a smile on his face as he turned to Hari. "Let's finish this quick." "Tried that move." "Ah, play time over already." Ahari asked, sounding disappointed as she sashayed toward Naruto, who took out another hexic device from his pocket which looked like an earpiece, and then put it on his other ear. You ready? How tempting. Ahari smiled before she touched Naruto's cheek and leaned toward him in an attempt to give the blonde a kiss. Before her lips could touch his, Ahari shone and became pure energy, which then wrapped themselves around Naruto's body before being absorbed into him. His eyes changed, its color shifted to golden like Ahari as his pupils became slits. A pair of fox ears appeared on the top of his head in golden furs. 9 golden foxtails shot out from his back, moving behind like blazing wildfire as the air around exploded with the release of his demonic power, sending members of the two sides back from him. The pressure became so great that the spot he was standing on shattered, and the whole school ground shook under his power as the small rocks and debris on the ground raised into the air. Whoa! Kibayudo uttered in amazement as he looked at his comrade, while shielding his face from the winds with both hands. He can merge with Ahari too, Tsubaki exclaimed in shock as she shot up from her seat. On the other side of the table, Sonu was also having a look of amazement on her face. Oh Naruto-kun! Momo cheered out as she jumped up and down excitedly to feed them. Alright, let's do this. Naruto declared and then dashed toward the 3 girls with even faster speed than before as he surrounded himself in Ahari's foxfire, firing energy bolts at them, forcing the 3 to either block or move out of the way to avoid it. Since she wasn't as fast as her 2 friends, Isabella got caught in an explosion of foxfire, but being a high-level rook she was able to make it through the attack. Naruto, however, didn't have time to recover as he lunged himself at her, grabbing her shoulders and putting his feet on her chest, smirking down at Isabella, before launching himself into the air, and using the force of his move to kick her down before conjuring numerous orbs of foxfire that orbited around him in a circle, and then launching them at Isabella on the ground. Boom. The ground around Isabella exploded as Naruto bombarded her with his foxfire, and even as she was a rook, there was only so much damage that she could take, so once the explosion ended, leaving a scorched area with Isabella in the middle, her clothes burned to ashes as she laid unconscious on the ground. She was then teleported away, and Graphia wasted little time to announce the elimination of Razor's last rook. Growing in frustration, Cirrus immediately went in for an attack from behind Naruto, hoping to catch him off guard, but the blonde swiftly jumped to the side and dodged her swayhander. Recovering with a smirk on his face, Naruto created an orb of deception in his hand, and then threw it at Cirrus, who raised the flat edge of her sword to block, but the orb phased through her weapon and also went through her, before stopping in mid-air and homing itself back to Naruto. Going through Cirrus for a second time and leaving the knight collapsing on the ground with little to no strength left. Razor Phoenix Sama's one knight retired. This proclamation by Graphia was followed by Naruto attacking Carloman with a kick in the chest, before launching a wave of foxfire, causing her to get blown backwards with enough force that she too was sent into the tree line, mimicking what happened to Isabella before being teleported away from the battlefield. Razor Phoenix Sama's last knight retired. Ravel did not even hear the announcement that proclaimed her as she coughed in pain, while kneeling on the ground behind Mihi, who was sweating profusely as she tried to protect Ravel from Naruto, who had turned his attention to them. She looked up, focusing her attention on the man who had single-handedly eliminated a good portion of her brother's peerage, with power she had never seen or heard before in her life. Stay away. Ravel choked in fear, tumbling to the ground as she tried to crawl away from him. Mihi had no choice but to throw herself at Naruto, so the blonde could escape, but since she was a bishop her physical prowess was not very impressive, so Naruto swiftly eliminated her by a neck chop, before continuing to advance toward Ravel, who was now crawling backwards, in order to keep the distance between them. This, however, stopped when she found her back against a tree. Please. She whispered between coughs, the poison was still in her lungs. Tears started to stain her cheeks as she felt fear for the first time in her life. Please don't hurt me. She sobbed and covered her head with both hands when she realized that Naruto Uzumaki was standing right in front of her. But a finishing blow never came. Here. Ravel opened her eyes and looked at Naruto in shock as he kneeled down before her with an orange in his hand. Eat this. It will make you feel better. Eh? I don't know how this thing even works, but if it works the way I think it is, it should clear the poison in your body and allow you to heal on your own. He said with a very genuine smile, before adding when he saw the unsure look on Ravel's face, I promise it's not poison. He said while peeling it off for her, since he doubted a high-class lady like her would like to eat an orange with its peel. Thank you. Ravel said timidly as she received the orange from him and took a small bite from it. Instantly, she didn't feel the pain in her lungs anymore, and her regeneration ability didn't take that much time to kick her back to full strength. It's delicious. Glad you like it. Naruto said and then stood up, his tails moving behind him as he started making his way back to Kaneko and Kiba, who had been grouped by Akeno. Wait. Ravel cried out, making him stop. Why didn't you eliminate me? Should I? Naruto asked as he tilted his head to the side in mild confusion. I could tell from the ways the other girls tried to protect you. You were not supposed to get hurt in this battle. Must be a direct order from your parents. Plus, you seem to have given up, so I have no more reason to attack you. Unless of course, you suddenly give one. He then turned around and grinned at her. So be a good girl and stay here. Don't interfere with our fight against your brother, and I promise nothing will come to harm to you. Ravel stammered as she got on her knees. Slowly, a blush began to form on her fair cheeks as she looked at the young man who had defeated her brother's servants today. You're too kind, Sito-senpai. Kaneko said with a cute pout as she crossed her arms on her chest. You should have eliminated that stupid bird from this battle. Now, don't be so cold, Kaneko-chan. Naruto laughed before he forced himself to dodge out of instinct when Akeno suddenly leaned toward him and touched his fox ears. What are you doing, Akeno-senpai? I am just testing to see if they are real or just cosmetic accessories. The busty Natashiko leaned back as she giggled softly into her hand. The ears and tails suit you well, Naruto-kun. Thanks, I guess. Naruto chuckled unsurely. What is it you are wearing on your left ear, senpai? Kaneko asked, noticing the device that wasn't quite the transmitter receiver they were all wearing. It's Professor Heimerdinger's invention. The blonde explained as he pointed at the earpiece. It protects my mind from being influenced by my champion's power, in this case, Ahari's power, when I merge with her and use our combined strength. Of course, Ahari would not try to control him like Evelyn had tried to do, but Heimerdinger had deducted that her power could still influence him one way or another, because this power of his sacred Gira literally allowed him to merge with his champions, giving him access to the knowledge of their powers and abilities, something that he had realized after being influenced by Evelyn, and being able to use her powers for a brief moment. A secondary device was a must in order for him to stay as himself. Ahari wasn't one of those evil champions in any way, but he wouldn't want to start behaving like her or even talking like her. But you gotta admit that it doesn't sound so bad, is it? Shut up, you lustful vixen. The blonde said to her with the telepathic link between them, making Ahari break out in a fit of giggle. It seems you never cease to amaze us, Naruto-kun. I guess you do have a reason to be so addicted to League. Still with a smile on her face, Akeno informed the group. Rias and Ashia have already gone on ahead to face Razor. We should go join them now. It's time to take down their king. And with that, the Occult Research Club headed into the new school building, and quickly made their way to the rooftop, where Rias was engaging Razor in a battle of their signature demonic powers. Rias winced as she used her own power of destruction, to shield herself from another wave of hellfire unleashed at her by Razor. Fire licked at the wave of her dark red demonic power, that was shaped in the form of a barrier with the Gremory family crest in its center. Even though the attack was entirely cancelled out in the end, Rias could still feel the heat coming from it. It was intense enough to leave her clothes burnt at several places, even though she had blocked the whole of it. President-san. Ashia whispered worriedly as she stood behind Yumi's shield, who was peeking from behind Book, not having the heart to watch the whole fight. Why don't you just give up, Razor? Rias asked as she kept a firm look on her opponent. All of your servants, but Ravel, have been eliminated, and mine are making their ways here as we speak. Once they arrive, you will have no chance of winning. Surrender now and save yourself from being humiliated more than you already have been. With that declaration, she sent out an orb of destruction at Razor. The attack struck him in the face, destroying a portion of his head. That's where you were wrong, Rias, said Razor confidently as fire erupted along the half of his head that got destroyed. In less than a second, all the muscles, bones and organ had regenerated, and the skin reknit itself until it looked like Rias had never attacked him, causing the crimson-haired heiress to growl in frustration. Yes, raiding game is just like a chess game. You need to take out the king to win the battle, but if the king's power is vastly superior to yours, sometime it can single-handedly take down the other king along with their peerage. All that I need to do is eliminate you to win this battle. You can't defeat me, and the same for your servants. Rias clicked her tongue in annoyance. It seemed that Razor's pride and overinflated ego would never allow him to give up this fight willingly. Whatever she was about to say died in her throat, when another voice spoke up. Gotta give it to you, Razor. Your voice pisses me off even more than those trolls I met in rank. Naruto Uzumaki spoke up loudly as he kicked down the door of the rooftop, and walked out with the rest of Ria's peerage, holding a flaming orb of foxfire in his hand. He then tossed at Razor, who jumped to the side to dodge, but didn't expect it to explode and knock him flat on his face. Naruto. Everyone. Rias exclaimed with a relieved smile as Ashia beamed brightly. Seeing him standing before her, having the appearance of the most powerful Yaokai in the world, after merging with Ahari with the rest of her servants who she considered to be her own family, at his side made her feel like the world had been lifted off her shoulders. Whoa! Yumi gasped in amazement as she took in Naruto's new features. Sorry we're late, President. Akeno said as she walked to her king's side, smiling softly as she checked for injuries. Fortunately for them, there was none. The hair-warming union ended, when Razor gave them a slow, mocking clap, making Rias and her peerage turn his attention to the arrogant, egotistical man. Bravo, you guys managed to defeat my peerage, and didn't even suffer a single casualty. It looks like I have greatly underestimated you a lot. However, just because you have a Kyuubi in your rank, do not think it means you've won. Razor turned her attention to Naruto. Obviously the guy hadn't paid any attention to the battle. Compared to me, my peerage is weak. Compared to the fire of a phoenix, the fire of a kitsune yokai is weak. I can take all of you on by myself. Even if all of you here are in perfect shape, you would still lose. Has anyone ever told you that you talk too much, Razor? Naruto narrowed his eyes and glared at Razor. Last chance. Give up now and save yourself the humiliation of having your precious flame put out and your body crushed beyond repair, he said, stepping forward with a radiant aura around him. Razor looked almost amused by the statement. This is perfect. Razor scoffed. To think Rias has acquired a Kyuubi within her rank, I have to give it to her, but if I defeat you here, then Rias will finally see our union will bring forth the strongest of children and accept our marriage. See, that is the problem with this whole situation, Razor. You don't care for her. All that you care about is that little ego that you shoved up your own fucking asshole a long time ago. Naruto said darkly, in a tone that sent chills down everyone's spine. Someone like you doesn't deserve my master, which is the reason why I will defeat you here, and give her the chance to freely acknowledge the one she wants to be with. President, allow me to 1v1 this asshole. Rias was surprised by Naruto's request, but the confidence and strength in his tone was something that put her at ease. At that moment, she realized that he could win very well, but do not get hurt, or I will spank you. Yumi, protect everyone, this is about to get from 1 to 100 really quick. The blonde said, and took a look at the watch on his wrist, and smiled when he saw the champion he wished to summon available. Ahari, I need you to separate from me. In order for the combination to work, the two of them had to come to agreement on every action and decision, or else it wouldn't work, and he would not be able to use Ahari's powers. Very well. Good luck Naruto, I will be watching with the big-headed Yordle. With that, Ahari's energy left him, making the fox features on his head and behind his back disappear. Razor just looked at the other blonde in confusion, which was shared by the spectators who had been watching the match from the beginning. They all held their breaths, and waited for the blonde to show them something even greater. Fortunately for them, Naruto intended to do so. I'm gonna show you, Razor, that you and that little flickering flame of you are nothing against the power of a true phoenix. Naruto said as he formed a telepathic link with the champion. Please come to me, I need your help. 1,000 lives will I give for you, young summoner. Thank you, Anivia, let's soar. Champion and summoner declared, and the temperature within the raiding game arena dropped, so much that ice began to form as the wind picked up, and became a snowstorm. Even Razor started shivering at the chilling cold, even though he had his wings of fire out. Then, from the snowstorm she began to take shape. First was her head and her body, taking on an appearance like that of a hawk, but she was covered entirely in spikes of ice. Then it were her wings that were also made of ice, so large they casted a shadow over the entire academy as the gigantic cryo phoenix let out a loud hoot, and took off into the air, blowing everyone but her summoner back. A phoenix. On the school ground, Rava looked up in shock and amazement. Astonishment filled her eyes as she gazed at the mighty form of Anivia, a phoenix made of ice. Otu-sama, Ka-sama, everyone, are you seeing this? She asked in a low tone. You, what are you? Razor asked in shock and horror, the first that Naruto or anyone had ever seen on his face, and the blonde had to admit that it felt good seeing him filled with dread like that. The one who is gonna kick your ass. Naruto answered firmly and then leaped into the air as Anivia dove down, meeting her summoner in a blinding flash of light. A moment later, when the light died down, Naruto returned to the rooftop with a new appearance, after merging with the winged spirit of Freljord, sporting a pair of feathery wings of ice from his back, and a red crystal in the middle of his forehead as his eyes glowed with an icing blue, similar to that of the cryo phoenix. What are you? Razor cried out in shock and fear as Naruto flew toward him at neck-breaking speed. No doubt he was feeling the pressure of facing a being that he recognized as a true phoenix. Naruto gave a small smirk at that as he threw his fist into his stomach, and caused ice spikes to form from it, penetrating the other blonde from the inside. Not so confident now, aren't you, Razor? Naruto chuckled as he yanked his hand back, tearing Razor's stomach apart, feeling a little scared. Perhaps I should have let Anivia face you herself, instead of merging with her, and using her power. Razor glared murderously at him as his stomach healed up, but if anything, it made this moment all the sweeter. If he was to compare it to the moment of League, then it would be something akin to reporting a toxic player for trolling and non-stop flaming, and then woke up the morning later, and saw Arias' feedback report saying that his report had been verified, and a penalty had been issued. Razor growled in anger, finding his courage back. Shut your fucking mouth, you lowborn shit, he said, and then unleashed a wave of fire at Naruto at point-blank range, but Naruto merely wrapped his wings around him to protect himself from the flame, at the same time summoning a sphere of ice, Flash Frost, and sent it toward Razor, blasting him off the rooftop of the fake Kuo Academy with a good portion of his body being encased in ice. Using his wings to recover in the air, Razor then used his flame to remove the ice from his body, but it did not take it long for him to realize that the ice melted away very slowly, much slower than how he had expected it to. Here, let me help you. Naruto said as he shot into the air and punched Razor in the face, shattering the ice around his head before flapping his wings, blasting a freezing gust of wind with sharp swords of ice at Razor, impaling into and cutting his body at several places. He then cocked his fist back, gathering a wave of chilling energy into his fist, and threw it at the other blonde's face, shattering his skull, and knocking him off balance in the air. Channeling more demonic energy than he had ever been in his life, Razor forced himself to recover, his wounds healing up within a matter of seconds, as his body disposed of the ice shards, before launching himself at Naruto with a battle cry, his wings increasing tenfold in size. The two forces clashed in midair, one blue, the other yellow, but Razor was the one who was thrown back, coughing a mouthful of blood as Naruto's punch once again came into contact with his face, and shattered his skull, after breaking his nose. What followed next was a beating like no other as Naruto became a streak of blue light on the sky, leaving Razor to cry out in pain as Naruto dashed around, and attacked him from every direction, aiming to force the Phoenix's regeneration ability to its limit. Soon enough, Razor's body began to give out on him from the amount of demonic power he had expended to heal his injuries, but he could do nothing but receive even more of it. Wait. Diving down with his hand grabbing Razor's shirt, Naruto smashed him through all 3 floors of the school building, before condensing the moisture in the air, and creating a wall of ice in the hall, which he then kicked Razor into as he turned around and released the Phoenix in midair. Before he could even recover, the blonde had summoned Jin's the Whisper, in his full sniper rifle form, and fired it after Razor, landing all 4 shots with flawless accuracy, and blasting hhis left arm, his right thigh, the left side of his chest and a section of his face apart, leaving him whimper on the ground in a pool of his own blood, before his regeneration kicked in and started healing him, albeit with a much slower rate than before. Realizing that Razor was at his limit, Naruto summoned a glacial storm around the school ground where Razor was, forcing the Phoenix to crawl desperately away, to avoid the falling ice spikes and hail, but so many of them still impaled through his body and pinned him down. The moment he was able to summon his flaming wings, and protect himself from the storm, Naruto was upon him, grabbing him by the back of his head, and lifting him up to knee him hard in his stomach, causing him to double over before Naruto smashed him back down as he took off into the air. Have enough? Naruto asked firmly as his wings of ice flapped behind him, gazing down at Razor's pathetic form, as the blonde tried to crawl to his feet, a hateful look on his face, when he spat out a glob of blood. His hair had lost its sleekness, and his fine outfit utterly ruined. Scumbag little shit, who do you think you fucking are? Razor glared hatefully as he got up on his feet and gathered what little demonic power he had left into a gigantic fireball. Just because you can summon a fake-ass phoenix, doesn't mean that you can act all high and mighty in front of me, a true phoenix. You think I am scared of you, a little human trash who doesn't even know what this marriage can bring to us high-class devil. To be frank, I don't care. I am still new to this whole thing after all. Naruto said as he closed his eyes and floated back until he was right above the new school building, the enemy's territory, but I must admit that you are right about one thing. I'm not the one who you're supposed to be afraid of. Promotion. Queen. With that declaration, everyone expected to see an explosion of magic power as Naruto promoted himself to the strongest piece of the game. But there was nothing, not even a sound. Ahaha. You failed you. Razor broke out in mocking laughter, and prepared to throw the ball of fire at Naruto, aiming to finish him off with it. But before he could do that, the third son of the Phoenix Devil household was forced to jump to the side to dodge a shooting star-like projectile that was fired at him from the starry sky. Hold on a second. Even Surzich's Lucifer, one of the 4 Demon King leaders of the Devil faction, had to stand up from his seat with a look of bewilderment on his face, having realized the change the moment Naruto finished promoting himself to Queen. It was common knowledge that the game field was where all raiding game matches took place, and was located inside a section of the dimensional gap, making the artificial sky a mix of iridescent colors. However, what he was seeing now was a dark sky full of stars, constellations and galaxies, one that would not be seen that easily in a normal night sky. Could this be? Riz gasped in shock as she covered her mouth in slight fear and astonishment. How adorable. There was a deep, rumbling and booming voice as the shooting star shot up in the sky, dashing across the night sky for a few more seconds before disappearing. It was at that moment, the whole sky itself began to shift. No matter what world, no matter what galaxy, no matter what species, there will always be those who think of themselves higher than others. First, it was something that looked like the hand with razor-sharp claws, each of which had to be at least 10 times the size of Crew Academy. But the one thing you all do best. Next, was a glowing blue eyes, and something akin to a golden crown on the top of a head of a gigantic Eastern-like dragon that was incomprehensibly large in size, and had a dark red mane. The shooting star from earlier flew into his hand and exploded into his sun, lighting up the whole body of the dragon. His beg for mercy. As the dragon finished, Razor fell down with a look of horror on his face as he stared up at the Star Forger, who looked down at him and everyone within the battlefield of Crew Academy, with a mocking smirk on its face, and closed his palm to shatter the star into crumbles. At that, Razor let out a scream of fear and terror before he passed out. It was then Naruto allowed the Aurelian soul to disappear, while trying to catch his breath, sweating profusely as he landed on the ground, but then fell on his hands and knees. It was quite fortunate that Razor had passed out with just that, as he could not maintain the Star Forger for any more than a few seconds without exhausting all of his demonic power. It was all thanks to Heimerdinger and his calculations that he knew he had just enough demonic power, after promoting to Queen, to call forth one of the most powerful champions of League of Legends, lore-wise, for a short duration to scare Razor and break his will. Combatant Razor Phoenix has retired. The victor is Ria's Gremory. Ha. Hearing Graphia's announcement, Naruto smirked as he turned around and looked at Rias, who flew toward him with tears of happiness in her eyes. GG, easy as. But before he could finish, his eyes rolled into the back of his head and he fell down, passing out just before Rias could catch him. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification, and also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.